we cannot free ourselves from conditioning. And I also say this from a neurological point of view, which means that conditioning, which is what we call the self, therefore all the baggage of information that we have stored, but let's stay with the term conditioning. Conditioning is a physical phenomenon, since it is stored in the brain subjectively. Even if, after all conditioning derives from the outside, meaning the environment, the people such person has met, those that this person has followed, the books he or she has read, the paths he or she has taken, and so on. So conditioning comes from the outside, but it is transported, downloaded, and stored internally in the brain, and it is therefore a physical phenomenon. I think it's very important to understand this. Then the human brain is wired to use the acquired memory, the acquired information, so as to regulate itself through life. Therefore, it is not possible to think that it is plausible that conditioning can come to an end, since it simply can't. In the sense that the brain creates a cognitive reaction that is generated and informed by the information present in the conditioning. I believe that the fulcrum instead is to rather build thinking skills capable of overseeing the interference of conditioning as it manifests itself. I believe this is what should really be done. Just to avoid misunderstandings. This does not mean controlling the brain's reactions, as we know that the control will be done by the same brain that wishes to control itself. Instead, I'm talking about an elevation of the ability to think, such that the individual becomes capable of understanding the interference of conditioning as it comes into being, depending on what the stimuli are. For example, if I have a belief and a person highlights this belief of mine in even a slightly critical way, my brain reacts immediately, and not through instincts, but through the ability it has to automatically analyze the information and react with a reaction that is, in this case, something that will be defensive and willing to protect the belief. Now, if this reaction is rather monitored, observed, and understood as it comes into being in the mind, and therefore supervised, not controlled, but carefully supervised, if this is possible, then it is possible to have a completely different way of thinking. If this is not done, then the reaction interferes with my mind, and then we know how the story goes. This will spread rapidly in the movements, the dynamics of the mind, and then it becomes behavioral, such as anger eventually, emotional reactions, defensiveness, etc., etc., etc. So I believe that this really should be understood and exercised. Being a realist, I know that this is not possible with respect to every reaction. Firstly, because we have a life to live. And secondly, because it is not even necessary, really. But if we had these thinking skills, and if we had been educated to use them daily, to use them concerning problematic reactions based on the conditioning that our brain holds, then I believe that the human society will be completely different.